US champion Lex Luger versus dangerous Danny Spivey. They've got a new US title belt. It cost them $20,000.
Jesus fuck!
That's too much.
That's too much.
They're basically admitting they've been conned by someone, and I think that is a stupid thing to do. They're putting Luger in with the big guys. What they're trying to do with Luger is they're going, he faces impossible odds, but he'll always win because he's absolutely unstoppable.
He's
like
He-Man.
a Superman.
Yeah.
He is unbeatable muscle boy. But the problem is...
Kinniku Man.
Yeah, Kinniku. The problem with this is that Luger does not have very good matches with big blokes. Big blokes tend to like to do you take on the small good guy, the small baby face, and then you get heat, and then if the baby face wins, God, they've toppled a giant. In this, you've got Luger fighting people who are a little bit taller than him, that he's much more muscular than, and just fighting them for too long.
Yeah.
Luger is not very good at selling, is a big problem with these. And Dan Spivey is not very good at wrestling. And that really is a problem. So,
And you got 30 minutes to fill.
I mean, it's much too long. What's funny about it is Dan Spivey
Will not stop talking.
You know, as we talked about earlier, that when you wrestle a southpaw...
He doesn't stop talking. He won't.
Cena-esque.
He will not stop fucking up moves. He cannot get them right. He fucks up an atomic drop. He does a really shitty tombstone.
Yeah.
He then does a sloppy neck breaker. He's really slow. He's ponderous. There's a bit where he does a sort of shit kick to the midsection, which honestly, if I stood opposite my mum, I went, "Mum, hold my hand out, kick it," my mum would go, "What?" And she'd give it a go, and it's like that. It looked so poor. And then he does one move, and I presume he does it wrong, and it's the best ever elbow drop I've seen in my life. He gets up onto the top rope, he turns much too quickly, and he comes down on Lex Luger like a fucking house, landing on a Wicked Witch of the West.
Shiny house.
It is unbelievable. I can't believe Lex Luger is alive.
Yeah.
The crowd are like, they've been silent through pretty much most of this. They like Lex Luger, but that happens, and they're like, fuck, the match is over. And Spivey gets a 2 count, and they're genuinely like, did not think he'd jump out of that. At that moment where you go, maybe Spivey's finding his groove, second that's happened, he's back doing a shitty neck breaker and everything. And it was really sad, but honestly, that elbow drop is one of the 3 best elbow drops I've ever seen in my life. No one looks more surprised than Spivey. He's like, shit. It's,
I absolutely nailed that.
Oh, it's proper good.
Luger's dead.
And now Spivey trying to get him up again for another pile driver. Luger extends the legs, trying to block it. He's got great strength, but he can't block it this time. He's trying to block it, but he couldn't. The second pile driver. The second pile driver.
But Luger's always being pushed. But they just cannot get Luger over that line to the point where he becomes the guy that they can hitch the entire wagon onto. It's hard to know quite what it is. Luger, I don't think, was a huge fan of wrestling, so he lacked some of the sort of like the invisible bits that, you know, came naturally to other performers. He's
actually quite a funny looking face.
He's
got a funny face.
He's got a very stretched... He looks like Mo from The Simpsons. And they always push how good looking he is and everything.
Yeah,
and you're a bit like,
he's done a lot of work.
His real name's Larry Pfohl. Pfohl.
Yeah.
And when you sort of go, if you go Lex Luger, that's one thing. But if you sort of go, but he looks like Larry Pfohl, you go, yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's a $1 million body with a, you know, $1.50 face, and the face is not very expressive, and he can never sort of quite do peril. He looks mildly irritated and doesn't emote.
Like he's drank some bad coffee. He's like,
Oh, it's a shame because they're really expensive, like £4.
Quite a very impressive physique, to say the least. Certainly one has to notice these explicit forearms. Obviously, as we take note, we see definition, vascularity, size, and one can't help but notice, ladies and gentlemen, does this not give you an unfair advantage over opponents here in the World Wrestling Federation?
Luger is one of those guys, he's not a bad wrestler, but I always go, I'm not sure I want to watch a long match with him in. It can only be better than I feel, but it's never better by very much. You know, it's always a bit of an anticlimax.
Yeah, and too shiny. Looks like his figure.
Yeah, his body is so muscular as well that I sort of just go, you know, you've been pushed here because you've got good genetics, and it's not really about your heart or passion. I know he's had the feud with Stan Hansen.
Genetics?
But, well, yes.
The word you want to go for?
Well, yeah, his genetics predisposed him to taking shortcuts.
Temptation
genetics.
Mr. Genetics.
Luger the right hand. They get 3. Spivey's still not down. And he's a monster. Finally goes down into 4 hard rights.
I tell you what, now Dan Spivey's a comer. He can take it, brother, and he can dish it out.
We see the new US title comes out. Out comes Grizzly Smith, the representative of WCW. Jake the Snake Roberts' dad.
Daddy.
Jake Roberts hated Grizzly Smith. He would accuse him of serial abuse over the years.
Oh, that's right, yes. So that was him, was it? Right.
That was, yes. And here he is representing the company. Bet they're over fucking joyed.
Yeah.
Nikita Koloff is also there. And Nikita Koloff, his real name is not Nikita Koloff. His real name is Nelson Scott Simpson. I think Nelson Simpson, I was about to say he's the bully in The Simpsons, but he isn't the Simpsons. He's Nelson Muntz.
I think Lisa was keen on him for a while.
Yeah.
So could have married him.
He has a face a little bit like Lex Luger as well. And he had a great gimmick in being this Russian at a time when, the Cold War was in full bloom.
Has he ever heard a Russian man speak before?
Well...
It was a pleasure watching that match. I congratulate you on a great victory. I've got something here for you, Lexter. I know you've been waiting for this. I take a lot of pride and a great pleasure in giving this to you.
Oh, good grief! What's he doing?
What is Nikita, what's he thinking here?
He was teamed up for a long, long time with his uncle,
Right.
Ivan Koloff,
Right.
who was, of course, from Quebec. So they also had a friend, Crusher Khrushchev, who was Barry Darsow, a.k.a. Repo Man,
Right,
who was
okay,
from the same part of Minnesota.
Again,
So very much what a Russian might sound like to 3 men, one from Quebec and 2 from Minneapolis, who would watch telly. He'd been retired for a few years. He'd been gone, and they brought him back here without much of a fanfare. And he obviously attacks Lex Luger with a really good, violent belt shot. It seems really real. He's got that intensity going. And he would go on to have a short but really good run. I always really liked Nikita Koloff. I thought he was really, really frightening in the 80s when I used to see him on videotapes. And he was really good in this run.
Right.
I'm always slightly surprised he didn't have a short WWF run. I think he would have been really, really good. He could have been a good foil for Hogan at that time. I'm slightly surprised they never went with Koloff as a sort of the evil Russian with Hogan. It seems like an obvious angle. They never really did. The closest it came was Nikolai Volkov. But by that time, Volkov was, an elderly man, about 86. It was terrible. In 1993, when he left, he became a born-again Christian, and he now runs a ministry. He's a member of a religious group called Fellowship of the Sword. Ooh. And they do very much sort of like, you pay $600 to come for 5 days, and they really drill you physically with Bible and just running around. I think. I don't quite know what it is.
Extreme Scouts.
Extreme Scouts. It does have very much that sort of look. He also runs his own small wrestling promotion, the Universal Wrestling Alliance, as an outreach of his ministry. So I think that's very much a sort of, it takes place in a church hall. And he comes out and he goes, well, I guess I beat the mortal in the ring, but there's one thing that you cannot beat, and that is the devil, unless you have the love of our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ. I imagine he does a much longer bit than that.
Yeah. Not much of a finisher, is it?
No.
The love of Jesus Christ.
But yes, that's the only thing that means you will defeat all finishes.
Right.
Because you will have eternal life.
The ultimate finish, isn't it?
I don't want to write Nikita stuff for him, but I mean, it's really
you could have a listen.
What's funny is I sort of wonder now if, because he's in that world, which I imagine is very traditional and very conservative. Yeah. I bet he thinks, I wish I was still called Nelson Sampson or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Rather than Nikita Koloff.
A fake Russian kind of,
Yeah, I'm sure everyone else.
Orthodox.
I just think it's strange when people must sort of go, oh, so you must be from Russia, and I'm going, no.
People ask Nikita Koloff what they feel like when you hit your opponent with a Russian sickle. You know what they feel like? I take a word from this great Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's better than coming. That's what I make Nikita Koloff feel like. Better than coming. Paruski Zabataha.
Let's go on to the next match. It's WCW Tag Team Champions Doom versus the Fabulous Freebirds.
Or as Teddy Long calls them, the Fabulous Free Girls. Enjoyable.
I like that.
I like that very much.
Some good-looking brown sugar there, says Dusty as DDP comes down. Racist and sexist in 6 words there.
Yes,
really impressive.
It's really efficient.
DDP is basically procuring women for free who will then appear on television. I don't know whether he's bringing them from his nightclubs or he's getting them from his contract in the nightclub world, but these ladies are very much much part, I think, of DDP being brought in. He will bring some fine ladies to brighten up the place.
Right. Okay.
In this bit, DDP does look very much like a perfect mix of Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. He looks like they had one night where they ill-advisedly crossed the line with each other, and a boy has been born. And it is exactly the two of them, and they have now brought him into the family firm. That's why they've both stopped speaking as well. They're burning shame. Tiny little bang, good God, baby. And out he comes. Now, for some reason, they've got DDP. This is his debut on a pay-per-view. And they've said to DDP, the only thing is, you're not enough. We're going to bring someone else out as well. And so DDP has to go out with the old and in with the new. Good God. And he brings out Big Daddy Dink.
Right.
That's right. Live and in color here in Phoenix. Diamond Dallas Page is all over the place. He's here and there and everywhere. He can't be all places at one time, though. Got to take care of business. So, shut up. So I had to incorporate another man into the plan. A man who eats stone cold cake and zaps lightning with bread, daddy-o. Out with the old, in with the new. Hold on to your hats, Dad. I got something for you. Good God, break it down one time.
They do get better.
Big Daddy Dink is a manager from Florida, primarily in the 70s and 80s. He was one of Dusty Rhodes' friends. He had the name Sir Oliver Humperdinck when he was performing in those days. And he comes out, he's now Big Daddy Dink. He is the road manager of the Freebirds, who, of course, are the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
Yes.
He
top of the tree when it comes to the hit parade.
He is very slow. He waddles out. He has difficulty. Have a guess at how old he is here, Pete. Have a guess at how old Big Daddy Dink is.
Is it going to be surprisingly...
It's going to be
50?
surprising one way or the other.
50.
42.
Oh, my God.
He is a year younger than I am in this.
Oh,
when he comes out looking like, for all the world, like a fat little hobbit Gandalf-y thing.
Does he have his bones replaced or something?
In his favour, Big Daddy Dink, off-screen, he hated this gimmick, and he just hated WCW's office politics as well. So it's not just that it was a bad gimmick, he hated it, and he ultimately retired from wrestling in 1993. Now,
when he was in Split 75.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing, what's interesting about this match is it's famous for a couple of reasons, and one of the reasons is the way that they'd filmed their television was an absolute fucking pig's ear. So the Freebirds winning these belts tonight, they'd already lost them before they'd won them. So what happened,
yes.
simple way of doing it is reading out the dates. On the 1st of February, Doom are the World Tag Team Champions.
Yes.
On the 9th of February, the Freebirds, coming out with the belts that they haven't won, are beaten by the Steiners for the tag team titles, which they don't technically have, at a TV taping.
Right.
2 weeks after that, on the 24th of February, the Freebirds win the tag titles at this event. And then on March the 2nd, the Steiners tag team title win is finally shown on television. So the Freebirds became one of the only acts in wrestling to lose a championship that they hadn't yet won. It's so complex.
Oh, that's great.
Again, a very WCW thing there of going, but we've got to get it done. And you go, can't we just have it for, but the Steiners need it for Japan. Yeah, well, okay, why don't we do it here then? Yeah. No, I want them in the main event. Right, everything's backed up and you fucked it, mate. You can't have everything. I know what I can do. I can forward plan.
2 rings.
Now. And that's what they did. At the time, there was a bit of controversy about it because the Freebirds came out as the champions. People were like, fuck, I've seen a title change. And they're like, but it's not been mentioned on television. And Doom are going into the live pay-per-view as the champions. So it was just them trying to work it out. But at the time, it was a bit controversial. You know, it was seen as being a bit sort of like you're making a mockery of wrestling.
Yeah.
Michael Hayes will start with Ron Simmons. Or Simmons, who is Burt Reynolds' favorite wrestler, they tell me.
Ron Simmons would have a fantastic run. And between Dusty Rhodes and Bill Watts as Booker, he would end up becoming the WCW champion. And he is a phenomenal performer here. He's so strong and just mighty. He's really mighty. They batter the Freebirds in this match, by the way. It's absolutely worth saying. They are like, you know...
free girls.
Yeah, we have been done over on this. We've already lost our belts. It's humiliating the way it's all been done. So we're just going to throw them around and have an awful night planned for them. And they really do.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what's going on. Ron Simmons is the cause of me losing the World Tag Team Championship, and Ron Simmons will dearly pay. Stay right on.
Brother, this is what we heard about. We knew it was coming. We didn't know. We thought they were back together. We thought everything was going to be copacetic, if you will, but it sure ain't here.
We knew that they had problems. They have been well documented.
Then we get this sweepstakes winner.
Julian Bogan. One of the key lessons that comes out of this is if you're going to talk to a child, speak to them in advance.
Yeah, tell them.
Speak to them in advance.
It goes like this. And we're back here with our 12-year-old winner of the sweepstakes, Julian. Jim Ross asks, who's your favourite team in the War Games?
Doom.
Doom is your favourite team? I don't think they're going to be a team much longer. They just had a big fight, didn't they? Jim Ross.
Yes. He says, absolutely terrible. So the kid doesn't know what war games are. He likes Doom.
I saw that.
I just saw it. It's the one thing I liked.
It's the one thing I liked.
And now it's been broken up. He's a young black man as well.
Yeah.
There is no one.
He's 12. Young black child.
He's a young black child. He is seeing the only two people that he likes.
Shows representation.
Falling
out with each other.
Completely. And they fought each other, and now it's gone. And then Jim Ross is saying, who's your favourite team? And just going, I can't move on that fucking quickly. Because
it's still Doom.
I mean,
Broken dreams.
It's still Doom.
Yeah.
You can't take that away from me. I understand people change, but so they've broken up, so I can't have them anymore.
No.
Oh, do you know who my favourite tag team are? Larry Zabisco and I don't know, whoever was in the first match.
The Tandy computer.
Is that what you want? Great. I wish I'd never entered this fucking sweepstake.
Oh, mate. I felt so sorry for him.
I'll tell you what now, Dan Spivey's a comer. He can take it, brother, and he can dish it out.